So yes, I missed the episode 2 weeks ago, but I do have an excuse, I promise. But first of all, let me apologize for it. I promise I'll do my best not to let it happen again. I had recorded the first part of this episode, all ready to get it edited, do the interview with my wife, get that edited, and get it posted. Jess and I went to dinner that night. We were going to come home and do the interview. I was going to be able to get it out without any trouble several days early, and then tragedy struck. We walked into our home that we had just been packing up to move to New Hampshire, and the house was flooded because the washing machine that we started before we went to dinner never stopped spitting water out. So for 3 hours, the washing machine spit water out and flooded the entire bottom floor of our home. So needless to say, several hours later, after we got a company out to clean the floors and get it all dry and run the dryers for days, we finally were able to get in bed about 2 o'clock in the morning. So there was no way in the world that I was going to work on this podcast. And I couldn't anyway because the blowers all over the house just made so much noise. I couldn't have recorded anything if I wanted to. So I apologize. We're going to get right into the show. Ignore the dates and everything in the show because this show was supposed to have been released 2 weeks ago. Anyway, enjoy the show, and I'll see you guys again in 2 weeks with my newest episode. Thanks so much for listening.
While you're listening to this, I'm on day 2 of our 3-day, 1,500-mile migration to New Hampshire to join the Free State Project. What's in the news with new regulations on drones, and Libertarians on the Hot Plate, where I interview my wife on our decision to move to New Hampshire.
Welcome to The Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week. Coming to you from the open road on our long drive from Arkansas to the home of the Free State Project, New Hampshire. This is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Revolution needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at the Lava Flow Pod. This is episode 23, the Moving Across the Country for Liberty edition with Jessica Paxton. And it's Tuesday, October 27th, 2015, when we've already had more than 925 people killed by police this year. What's wrestling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. So what's wrestling my jimmies? Well, nothing is wrestling my jimmies this week. I am way too exhausted to have my jimmies wrestled. I have spent the last 3 weeks working, packing, cleaning, repairing, and now driving. I'm exhausted. My wife is exhausted. As you're listening to this, we're on day 2 of our 3-day drive to New Hampshire to begin a brand new chapter in our lives. We can't wait to get there, to begin helping the Free State Project and their mission to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Jess and I finally decided to either put up or shut up, and to put our money where our mouth was. So we are making a huge plunge deep into the heart of the Liberty Revolution. There are lots of places trying to do the same thing that the Free State Project is doing. There's a small group in Acapulco, Mexico, including Anarcho-capitalist podcast host Jeff Berwick, who is trying to get people to move there to achieve liberty. There's a very active group in Asheville, North Carolina, called the Blue Ridge Liberty Project, trying to get folks to move there as well. Then there's Liberland, which seems great as well. All of these are awesome projects, and I think that all of them will have some success. But I'm putting my money on the Free State Project, literally, by uprooting my family and moving them 1,500 miles from the only home that we've ever known, so that we can help bring about more liberty for our family. I mentioned last week that this will be an abbreviated episode, and it will. I just don't have the time to produce a full episode like you're used to, and I apologize for that. I promise that the next episode will be a full episode. Have you subscribed to the Lava Flow on iTunes or any mobile device yet? Then what's wrong with you? Go to thelavaflow.com/subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the show. And while you're subscribing, make sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review the show to help others find our podcast. thelavaflow.com/subscribe.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In setting a dangerous precedent news, a jury has said that a gun store should pay $5 million for selling a straw buyer a pistol. For those of you who may not know, a straw buyer is someone who is unable to legally buy a product, such as a gun, for some reason. So they get someone else to buy it for them. In this case, 18-year-old Milwaukee teenager Julius Burton wanted to buy a handgun. But at 18, he was not old enough to legally purchase one from a federally licensed firearms dealer. So when he went to Badger Guns in West Milwaukee, he brought a 21-year-old friend, Jacob Collins, who posed as the buyer, paying $414 for a .40 caliber Taurus pistol. A month later, Burton used the gun to shoot 2 police officers, Brian Norberg and Graham Kunich, in the head. A Milwaukee jury decided that Badger Guns, the store that sold this handgun, should pay $5.1 million in damages to Norberg and Kunich because it was negligent in ignoring signs that Collins was a straw buyer. Burton hovered near Collins during the purchase, and surveillance video shows him pointing at a gun saying, "That's the one that I want." When Collins filled out the federal form for the purchase, he checked a box indicating that he was buying the gun for someone else. He changed his answer when a clerk pointed out that it was inconsistent with what he had said on the state form. After Collins realized he did not have enough cash in his pocket to pay for the gun, he left the store with Burton and came back with more money. Burton, who is serving an 80-year prison sentence, testified on video that no one at the store asked him any questions or checked his ID, although there was a sign saying entry was limited to people 21 or older. This entire case sets an incredibly dangerous precedent. What if I buy a car for my boys when they're older while they're at the lot with me checking out the car? They could be under 18, therefore not legally able to sign the contract to purchase it, so I have to purchase it for them. What if they get stupid one night and get drunk and kill someone? Will the car dealer be held responsible? Of course not. But bring in guns and everyone goes batshit crazy. In more unintended consequences news, the U.S. Treasury has recently opened an inquiry about the so-called Islamic State, or ISIS's, use of large numbers of brand-new Toyota trucks. Their conclusion? The U.S. and its allies, including the U.K., are responsible for this. How? They gave the trucks to the Free Syrian Army, which in turn allowed them to get to ISIS. This is a recurring theme for the U.S., when we supplied the Taliban with weapons and supplies to fight the Russians, and supplied Iraq with weapons and supplies to fight Iran. How about we just stop giving weapons and supplies to everyone? In We Don't Need No Stinking Laws news, the U.S. Department of Transportation has taken it upon themselves to dictate to the American people that all drones must be registered, without having to go through the onerous process of creating a new law to require it. Whatever happened to laws being needed to do things such as this? When did we become a nation of unelected regulators having the power to create and enforce law without actually having to create new laws? This has been going on for a long time, and it just pisses me off. With these new regulations expected to hit before the holiday season, any drone purchased for Christmas will be required to be registered, including your cool new Millennium Falcon drone. Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode, or use Bitcoin. Get exclusive content, rewards, and help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral while providing you more content. thelavaflow.com/support.
Libertarians on the Hot Plate, an interview segment with hot libertarians.
Today I'm interviewing my wife, Jessica, about our decision to move to New Hampshire, leaving behind everything that we've ever known, family, friends, our incredible home, and everything else. This was a tough decision for us, to be sure, but guys, I have to tell you, if you don't already have a partner in your life who loves liberty as much as you do, I suggest finding that person right away. Working with my wife on all of our liberty projects, from the Libertarian Party of Arkansas to this podcast to moving to New Hampshire, is the most fun and rewarding thing I've ever done, with the exception of having and raising my boys. Jessica Paxton is the former chairman of the Libertarian Party of Arkansas, as well as a former Libertarian candidate for U.S. House. She's also been the media coordinator, events coordinator, and many other things for the LPAR, and has been a staunch liberty lady for many, many years, working hard to raise and homeschool 2 liberty-loving boys for the next generation of libertarian activists. She was named the Standard Bearer of Liberty by the LPAR in 2011, which is essentially Libertarian of the Year. And she's the best wife that I could ever ask for. So let's get right to the interview.
So, Jessica, what exactly attracted you to the Free State Project?
What really made me start thinking about it as an option is every time we would leave a libertarian event, whether that was a state party convention, a national get-together, you leave with this feeling, just thinking, man, I would love to take all of these libertarians and move them into my neighborhood. You know, how fun would it be to have these people over for dinner every week, have our kids get to know each other and grow up together. And then I realized that there was a community out there already established that's growing that would fill that need, that want. And so that's what first drew me to the thought of packing up our family and moving to New Hampshire.
So what was the final decision factor in moving your family 1,500 miles away from the only home that you've ever known?
I think that the moment I knew this is it was when we came to New Hampshire for the job interview. On Sunday, we had brunch with some Free Staters while we were in Portsmouth, and sitting down and talking to them and hearing their stories, hearing about their everyday life, the activism here, the community here, that really sealed the deal for me.
Yeah, I agree. Meeting Mike and Andrea just really, made a huge difference. I even talked about them in the last episode just because, just kind of hearing them talk about the things that are going on, from just the activism, like the Uber activism and the Praxium, the Liberty meetup spots that are all over the state and things like that. I mean, it just really made a huge difference. So I have a question for you from a listener, Sean. The question is, are there major cost of living differences between Arkansas and New Hampshire? And how do you think that that's going to affect us?
Well, the major cost of living increase is the price of housing. We are sort of in a suburb of Memphis where we were in Arkansas. Housing was dirt cheap. You could get a big, large, beautiful house for the cost of about a studio apartment here in New Hampshire. So that's an adjustment. But the cost of things like food and gas, utilities, insurance, those sort of things are very similar to Arkansas. We did decide as a family to go to a city about 10 minutes outside of where we really did want to be in order to have the space that we were looking for, which is hard to find in these small, old New England homes. Closet space is important and things like that. So we did have to compromise in our housing situation, but so far we love it.
Talk specifically about the difference in taxes. Now, I covered this a little bit in the last episode, but now that you're here in New Hampshire and you're seeing things, what are you seeing as far as the tax situation?
Oh, it's fantastic to go to stores and not have to pay sales tax. I mean, we've already seen probably hundreds of dollars in savings in sales tax alone. In talking to other people who live here, we were sort of worried about the cost of car tag registration and that sort of thing, because in Arkansas, I think we paid, $25 a year to renew our car tags. And here it's a little more expensive, but because we have cars that are a couple years older, it looks like we won't be paying a huge difference, maybe $100 more a month. And really, in the grand scheme of things, we'll save that $100 every month just in, sales tax on groceries. So,
and not to mention no income tax. I mean, the tax bracket that I'm in, that's a big deal. You're talking thousands of dollars a year in savings just from that alone. 6.9% difference from the state of Arkansas at a 6.9% income tax. Now, there is still a federal income tax, of course, but the state income tax is zero across the board. How has the Free State Project Liberty community helped us out already? I mean, what are some of the things that they've done to kind of help us in this transition from moving 1,500 miles away?
Oh, so many things. It would be hard to even mention them all. I guess I'll start at the very beginning when I've already mentioned we had brunch with Mike and Andrea. And having, hey, let's move to New Hampshire, be hypothetical is one thing. But having a job offer in your email box the morning that you go to meet these fellow Free Staters really turns it from a hypothetical into reality. And that morning we were having a very serious, are we sure we want to do this moment? And in talking with them, they really helped ease some of those fears that we had. So that was sort of an immediate help from the Free State community.
Yeah, it was definitely an oh shit moment there. We woke up to that job offer for sure. I mean, like you said, going from the hypothetical to the theoretical was just huge. So how else has the community helped?
After the job offer came in and we decided that we were going to accept it, we posted in some of the Free State Project Facebook groups. There were probably a dozen or more geared towards various aspects of the Liberty community. And immediately there were people offering advice and help and support. Chris Lopez is one of the Free State Project leaders who immediately said, what can I do to help? What do you need? Can I set up some events for you to meet people in your community? Hey, there's this event going on the week you get there. Why don't you go to that? Let me introduce you to people. So that was amazing before we were even here.
Yeah, Chris was just fantastic in helping us make that transition for sure. And why don't you talk a little bit about, which was a really defining moment for me. I mean, we got here on a Tuesday. You and I drove up here. Took us 2 days to get here, 22 hours of driving. And then 2 days later, our boys got here. They flew up here with my mother-in-law. And then the next day, our moving truck got here. And when I say moving truck, I'm talking a 28-foot moving truck that was almost full. I mean, we had a lot of stuff moving from a nearly 2,500 square foot home to a 1,800 square foot apartment. So kind of tell people about that process of what happened when we landed here.
Well, on the way, we decided to stop in Keene on our drive on the way in. If you follow the Free State Project, you've probably heard of the Free Keene guys. And with about an hour's notice, they rounded up 6 or 7 activists there in the Keene area to stop and have lunch with us. And so that was a nice little welcome to New Hampshire. We were talking to some of the activists that we've seen their work, on social media and listened to their podcasts and things like that. So that was really fun to just have a really quick turnaround. Hey, the Paxtons are coming. Let's meet them for a late lunch.
Yeah, I had kind of a fanboy moment there when I finally got to meet several of the people that I've listened to on the internet for years, including Ian Freeman and Daryl Perry, who you can listen to on an interview on thelavaflow.com. You can get to it at thelavaflow.com/12, where I interviewed Daryl Perry talking to him about running for president as a libertarian candidate. But it was almost kind of surreal, meeting these people, Rich Paul and several others that I've followed and heard about for years.
So yes, that was a really fun welcome to New Hampshire moment, just probably half an hour before we stopped at the New Hampshire line and took our picture with the welcome to New Hampshire sign. And so it was nice to immediately get to meet with and spend some time with some fellow Free Staters. So that was just crossing the line, the state line, when that happened. Then once our moving truck arrived, Chris Lopez had set us up an event in some of the Free State groups to say, hey guys, come help the Paxtons move in. Well, the timing wasn't the best. It was Halloween day that we needed to unload the truck. It was also the weekend of Convention, which was a convention with liberty activists out there in Keene. But with a very short notice and a very busy weekend, we probably had 12 to 15 people here who helped us unload our truck that took us 3 days to load. They had us unloaded in about an hour and a half. And not only did we have the help with the trucks, but we also had probably 10 or so kids here, our kids' age, who came and played and kept them company. So the kids arrived on Thursday, and they already met friends on Saturday, who we have since met a couple other times. So having that support of, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. We've never met you, but you're a fellow porcupine, so let us carry some heavy boxes up and down all of your stairs. That was really humbling and really, really, really appreciated.
Yeah, and what you're talking about there is, they call it what do they call it?
The welcome wagon?
The welcome wagon, right. Where when a family moves in or somebody moves into the area, they just rally a bunch of porcupines together and unload the truck for them real quick. And like she said, it took about an hour and a half. And I mean, these guys were busting humps. All you got to do is give them some beer and some pizza, and they pretty much take care of the rest. It was amazing.
We did learn that our beer choice was subpar.
Yes, apparently there are a lot of beer snobs up here, and I'm kind of a beer snob myself, but, if I'm buying beer for, 15 people, I tend to go cheap, but I probably shouldn't have done that. I bought Bud Light. And the question that I get the most from friends and family, other than, are you fucking crazy? The second question I get is, are you worried about the cold? So tell me, are you worried about the cold?
Yes, I'm worried about the cold. I tell you what, that was one of the things that I think held us back. I think we could have been here years earlier if it weren't for the cold winters. We're both born and raised in the South, so we know nothing of a real winter. But I read somewhere, and someone said, would you trade liberty in your lifetime for a little cold? And I think that was my moment. That was my, well, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Of course I would. And so, we've since bought snow shovels and snow boots.
And $1,000 worth of winter clothing, I might add, that my wife went on a shopping spree. She enjoyed that, let me tell you. And, it's like I mentioned on the last episode, and I know I keep referring back to that, but of course I talked about this quite a bit in the last episode. The idea of the fires of liberty, keeping you warm, that's not just bullshit. I mean, when you've got events that you can go to get you out of the house when it's freezing cold outside, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. I mean, if you go to nhlibertycalendar.org, you'll see what I'm talking about. There are literally more events in a day that we could attend here in New Hampshire, liberty-oriented, versus Arkansas having that many, not even that many in a year. I mean, there's some days where there's 8 or 10 different liberty events around the state. The average is, 4, 5, 6. That's incredible. Whereas in Arkansas, liberty events, we are lucky to have, 2 or 3 in a year. So the fires of liberty will definitely keep you much warmer here than anywhere else you could imagine being.
And I think part of that has to do with, New Hampshire's geography. It's a small state. It's pretty easy to say, hey, there's an event on the other side of the state. Do you want to drive 45 minutes to get there?
Right.
So that's an advantage, where a lot of the events in Arkansas could have been 2 hours, 4 hours away, whereas driving half an hour to a meetup is no big deal here.
Yeah, and since we were on the edge of the state, the central part of the state was nearly 2.5 hours away, so anything on the other end of the state, there was just no way we could attend. The furthest we're going to be from anything here is, 2.5 hour stops.
Oh, and that's if we go to damn near Canada, yeah.
Right. So, there's so much within an hour. You've got the whole Free Coast area, the Seacoast area. They nickname it the Free Coast, which is where we live. And then there's Manchester, about an hour away. There's Concord, about 45 minutes away, maybe half an hour. And then you've got Keene, which is, a little over an hour away, which is where a lot of activism is happening as well. As a family with young kids, how do you think that this change is going to affect us? How is it going to change things for us?
I think we'll be busier. Well, after we made the decision to move and we sat down and told the kids, big news, it's exciting, we're moving. Their immediate reaction was tears. Just big, sobbing tears. I don't want to move. I don't want to leave my friends. And I tell you, if we had not already found a rental and signed on the dotted line to accept the job offer, that might have been what held me back. It was absolutely pitiful. But, we showed the kids pictures of all these Liberty events where they're almost always family friendly and have lots of kids there. There's a huge homeschooling community here. So I showed them pictures, and I showed them pictures of like amusement parks and water parks and Legoland and all these things that are within a drivable distance just for a little day trip from where we are now. And I think that helped. And then the fact that 2 days after they landed, we had kids here for the moving party. That night we went to a Halloween party where there were more kids. And since then they've been to another event or two that was just full of kids. And so that has been really wonderful in helping us transition from there to here. The fact that we're just already plugged into a social network, not just the kids, but, Roger and I too. And I think that has really helped with the transition. But one thing that I was really excited about moving to this area is that when you look at where we were near Memphis, our, hey, let's take a weekend trip radius was about 6 hours. That covered, St. Louis, Atlanta, the Smoky Mountains, Hot Springs, that sort of area. Here, if you look 6 hours, you have Boston and Canada and New York City. There's so much more to do here in our little 6 hour weekend away radius. And then if you go to about an hour radius, you have everything that Boston has to offer. All of their museums, all of their history. There are tons of amusement parks and water parks and museums and activities during the day for the homeschoolers. That's really exciting to me, knowing how much there is to do here.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that really made our choice as to where we were going to relocate, what part of New Hampshire. There's lots of different areas. There's Upper New Hampshire, where it's very rural, very close to Canada. There's the Keene area, which is very young, single, mostly male, but there's quite a few females there as well. And then you've got the Manchester, Concord area, which is young couples, not any kids, and a lot of single people there as well that like to party and things like that. And then you have the Seacoast area, which is just north of includes Portsmouth and north of Portsmouth, which is where we decided to move. And that's because there are just so many families in this area. I mean, this is pretty much the family-centric area. That's Portsmouth, Dover, Somersworth, Rochester, goodness. And then you've got Lee and Barrington and Hampton Beach and all of these areas around here. There's just so many family groups of Liberty people, and really solidified our choice to move in this area. At the time, did you think that we were going to be able to make this move without killing each other?
No. It was stressful. Moving long distance is hard. We had a lot of big decisions to make. We were overworked, and the time that it was taking to figure out the logistics of a long distance move, dealing with everything from the moving company to, getting the electric and water turned on and finding a rental from 400 miles away, which, by the way, was done with the help of a fellow Free Stater. But dealing with all of those things was pretty stressful. But I think that we both went into this with a lot of confidence, and we saw how many people had made this move before us, and having met some Free Staters and been in those Facebook groups to see the community and the activism really gave us so much to look forward to. And I think that really helped us. I mean, I only wanted to kill you like 3 times, and I think that's pretty amazing.
Wow. So now that we've made it, now that we're here, now that we have been here for almost 2 weeks, it'll be 2 weeks when this episode comes out. Tell me some of the things that you have seen that have kind of solidified that decision for us to move to New Hampshire. Some of the activism, some of the people that we've met, some of the things that we've seen. Talk about that.
Well, I've already touched on several of these, from having a group of strangers who are fellow Liberty lovers come and help move us in. That was amazing. The fact that the kids had only been here a few days when we had invitations to play dates, that was really nice to see, to have my kids ask about, oh, can we invite my new friends over? And the fact that they do have new friends so quickly. Going to a meetup on a random weeknight and having almost 50 people there just from this, probably within half an hour radius of where the meetup was. We had about 50 people there, including the kids. And just seeing all those people come together, people who are not just sitting around griping about things, but people who are sitting around saying, what can we do? Let's make a plan. Let's do it. I think that was really, really a defining moment for me when we were at that meetup. And also at that same meetup, we met Christopher David. And if you're following his free Uber campaign, then you probably know who I'm talking about. But, going to a meetup and seeing him there he was with felony arrest warrant for driving people around without the state's permission, basically. But to hear his story and to see all these other activists and liberty lovers who, they're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk. And I think that is an inspiration. I'm guilty of talking the talk and not walking the walk, but being here and being among these people really makes you want to get up off your ass and do something. You know that you have a great community of people behind you who will support you, and that's just really, really amazing.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, meeting these people that we've followed for years now. Robert Mathias, who does the Rebel Love talk show. I mentioned Daryl Perry and Ian Freeman. Of course, Vince, I can't think of his last name, who was responsible for the 101 Reasons to Move to New Hampshire. Chris David. Just meeting all of these people who have really been in the trenches and talking to them about what they have coming up and the things that they're going to be doing and talking to us about how we can help and, just really getting plugged into these events and these projects. Liberty is really happening here. And people aren't just talking about it, they're fighting for it. From free Uber to the cases that have gone to the New Hampshire Supreme Court to, more than 20 Free State Project members becoming elected to the House of Representatives in the state. Real liberty is happening. And if you're not here, you're missing it. It's that simple. I was missing it for years. And now that I'm here, we're actually a part of it. And being a part of this historic movement is just, there's not enough words for it.
It makes you wonder why we didn't do it sooner.
Right, exactly. That was my question to myself after I'd been here less than a week. Why didn't we do this years ago? That's really all the questions that I had. Do you have anything else that you want to mention or that you think our listeners should hear?
Well, if you like what you're hearing and you want more information or you want to sign the pledge, and just to remind you, the pledge works like this. When 20,000 people have signed it, they will trigger the move, and that means those signers have 5 years to all make the move to New Hampshire. If you want to sign that pledge or read the pledge, learn more about the Free State Project, you can head to freestateproject.org. Shoot them an email, browse their website, and check it out.
Yeah, I agree. There's just so much information on that website talking about the project. And as of right now, their website says that there are 17,680 signers out of that 20,000, meaning that probably in around 12 months or so, or less even, at the rate they're growing at about 1% a month, the move will be triggered. And those 20,000 people have up to 5 years to move to the Free State and help achieve liberty in our lifetime. Now, currently, there's already 1,865 people who have moved, those early movers, including Jessica and I. The things that have already happened in this state because of those 2,000, from the Supreme Court cases that people like the current president of the Free State Project, Carla Garrick, took to the Supreme Court, and the Church of the Sword, all of the stuff they're doing in the Supreme Court, and the wiretapping things. There's so much going on that's happening because of these early movers. Can you imagine what will happen if there's another 2,000 or another 10,000 liberty activists in the state in a few years? It's just going to get wild. So, Jessica, thank you for your time, and thank you for moving to New Hampshire with me. You'll be hearing a lot more about New Hampshire and liberty in our lifetime and the Free State Project on this podcast coming up over the next few weeks, because there's just so many people that I've been talking to here that I want to bring to you guys, like Chris David from the Free Uber Project and The library, LBRY, which is a decentralized sort of Netflix replacement based on the blockchain. And there's so many things like that I want to bring to you guys over the next few weeks that you'll probably get tired of hearing about the Free State Project by the time I'm done. But that's what is going on in my life, and that's what this podcast is all about.
Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank my liberty-loving lady, Jessica, for her help with this show, and Sheltered Life for allowing me to use their music. For the show notes to this episode, where I put links and all other information that's been on this show, go to thelavaflow.com/23. I don't have any new iTunes reviews this week. If you'd like to leave a review for this show, go to thelavaflow.com/iTunes, and I will read your review right here on the show. And finally, if you like what this show gives you, and you want more of it, and to keep this show ad-free, exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per-episode donation of as little as $1 an episode using Federal Reserve notes through Patreon or Bitcoin through Coinbase. There are monthly costs associated with doing this show, and I need additional equipment to continue making this show better for you every episode. I'm still sitting at 33.5%, more than 1/3 of the way towards bringing you more content. Help me get closer to my first goal by going to thelavaflow.com/support. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.